activated by temperance spirits, creating a space for change.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Game Over Head-to-Head, Game Over crossover between the Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, my name is Brady. I will be your host from the Winnipeg Jets side of things, and of course, I'm joined by the wonderful Zach Weil, who just came into this Zoom call with a fire under him. Zach, I'm just going to let you go. How are you feeling right now, my guy?
That was unreal, at least from my perspective. There were so many games this year. We've watched the Oilers dominate and not finish. We watched them get goalied by Demko. We watched them get goalied by guys like Jonathan Quick, who's actually been really good this year, so whatever. But regardless, a number of backup goalies. The Oilers, I was expecting, it's the same old. We're going into because the Oilers have a mini break coming up. They're off for the next 5 days. Connor McDavid's getting inducted to the Canada's Walk of Fame or whatever. So they gave the Oilers a little break in the schedule, whatever. So I thought they were going to go into the break on a downswing, which, wouldn't have been the end of the world just considering how well they played the last 3 games. But you know what? I'm thinking we're back. The Oilers are so back. They come from behind, and not only do they come from behind, Hellebuyck was making unreal saves. The toe save on Hyman in the third period, where he just got enough to get the puck on net. The save on Connor Brown off the faceoff. So, Hellebuyck was standing on his head. The Oilers were dominating possession. They couldn't buy a call. They couldn't buy a goal. And yes, he lets in a garbage goal from, in my opinion, the best defenseman in the NHL as of 3 games ago. And then of course the statement, the cherry on top, at least again from my perspective, was the trademark, the pivotal goal. Leon Draisaitl from his spot gets through Hellebuyck. That's a goal that wasn't going in, now is going in, and the league should watch out. I said this to you before, but if I was a contender and I was in first in the West and the Oilers managed to get one of those wild card spots, which, listen, I'm not betting against the Oilers with the talent that they have. I would be furious. Or I would be so scared, I should say. I want to make a joke like kind of like an Ottawa reporter, you know what I mean? I just want to tweet out, objects in mirror may be closer than they appear.
Yeah, exactly. Man, so frustrating. I was so ready to come in here and just have the most snide. The first, I already had it planned out. First question was going to be, "Hey Zach, how do you how do you feel knowing that the Oilers could have potentially traded for Connor Hellebuyck in this offseason?" And to have it finish "Oh, hello, who's this? Uh-oh. We got a guy jumping in here. Hello, Mr. Steve Dangle. What is up? When did you get here?"
Hey, man, you tweeted the Zoom link.
I didn't do that. I would never do that. Thanks, man. Thanks for letting us know. How's this?
That's so funny.
That's hilarious.
I would listen. Me personally, I would never do that. I would never do that. I saw you message our chat, but I thought you were just gonna make fun of us. Oh,
no,
man.
I messaged the Oilers one. I messaged the Jets one. I texted you. I'm just getting ready to shoot the LFR, buddy.
Listen, hey, at least it was only you who had the wherewithal to hop in here.
Only me. Here, I'm gonna go now. You guys have a great show.
Thanks, man.
I will.
Hey, just like the Jets, I blew it tonight, You
blew it!
That's so
thanks,
funny.
Steve.
I can't believe that happened.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm gonna retweet tweet it out again another time.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I was saying, but I was coming in here. I was ready to ask Zach, how he felt knowing that the Oilers could have paid maybe a hefty little sum for one of the best goalies in the league, considering he was the story for me tonight, at least on the Jets side of things. But that goal against, it's so frustrating because he had such such a good game leading up to that. I mean, you already mentioned the save on Connor Brown right off the draw. Even the start of the game. I mean, like the Oilers had 4 shots within the first minute, 2 of which were like a beautiful pad save on the rebound. Man, in the Connor battle tonight, like I thought just like the Jets, I thought we were gonna win this one, but
I thought you were too. The shots were 7-3 Edmonton early. Like Edmonton was the better team for the entire first and second period. Think about how pivotal it was. The Jets were on, what was it, their second power play. Matthias Janmark gets a breakaway. Could have been a shorthanded goal. It could have changed the entire game. But Connor Hellebuyck standing on his head made an amazing save on Janmark. The Jets also, like, if you look outside of obviously Hellebuyck stood on his head for most of the game. It's another thing I kind of brought up with you before we jumped into the show, but Kyle Connor in one shift missed the net twice on a breakaway, and then when he did get a breakaway, it was Evan Bouchard made like a nice defensive play on him. And if you're Kyle Connor against the Oilers, like all you got to do is get it on net. Like when Stuart Skinner's in net, I don't understand watching the Jets try and pick their corner and just be so exact with their shots and almost overpassing. Like the first power play goal was nice. And the Oilers penalty kill since Chris Knoblauch has taken over has been unreal. They're like in the high 90%, like 96% or something stupid. This was the first power play goal they've allowed in over 5 games. They've been unreal in that regard. And obviously you can't stop them all. Cole Perfetti lets it in, and I was pretty furious because you could see the script. You could see the way the Jets were playing, just how physical they were on the Oilers stars, how they pretty much weren't giving anything up. They were playing that hard grind, dumping it at the blue line, get down, cycle, and just wear out the Oilers defense. And I really thought the Oilers were just going to have trouble getting anything going, because even when McDavid was generating in the first and second period, the Jets were on him so fast that his passes were kind of off. They weren't able to create those necessarily. I know they're grade A or they're high danger scoring chances, but they don't necessarily feel the same as they are against another team. Like the Jets always had a stick in the lane. There was always someone there making life a little hard on McDavid, making him probably rush a play a second faster than he would like to. And, you could see the frustration on the Oilers until Darnell Nurse just with a snipe beats Hellebuyck. Unreal, man. I'm still buzzing. I'm still buzzing.
I can tell, man. I am glad that you did mention like obviously what was the shots you said it was?
If in the first 10 minutes it was 7-3, and then after that, the Oilers outshot the Jets for a while, and then when the Jets started getting their power plays, they started piling up a little bit of the shots, and it made the shot clock look closer. But towards the third period, I think the shots were only at one point like 27-23, like they were relatively close, but then the Oilers kind of pulled away in those last 10 minutes when they were really pressuring to get stuff going. And when Knoblauch made the switch to go back to not back, but to put McDavid, Draisaitl, and Kane together, the Jets had a hard time containing that line.
Here's the thing, when you're like, because you get the joy, the absolute joy to get to watch not only Connor McDavid but also Leon Draisaitl play hockey for your team, and I know it comes with some baggage, of course, too, with being an Oilers fan, but that is a very special feeling that not a lot of fans can relate to, or other teams at least, that is. But from the other side of things, like oh my goodness, they just feel inevitable. And there was at no point tonight where I felt like this game was for sure. I'm not going to say necessarily confident, but I had a feeling that I think that maybe the Jets could pull this one out, because again, Connor Hellebuyck was just having such a phenomenal night. And when that's happening, it's hard to bet against him. But McDavid is just such a force that it's just like whenever he's on the ice, whenever he has the puck, it just feels like you're almost, everyone is just kind of turtling, And I wanted to at least praise, and you kind of even mentioned it, the Adam Lowry line. Like tonight, I know they don't like win their matchup or anything like that. They only had like 25% expected goals, but it's pretty tough when you're going against McDavid and also Draisaitl later on in the game. But I do think that they did really well at least keeping the like high danger chances to the outside. And when there were high danger chances, they were kind of just in these flurries where Hellebuyck didn't really need to make these gigantic saves. He just needed to be big and in the right spot because it was so in tight. So I did want to give just a little shout out to Lowry and his line, because I think that they did a really good job at, one, keeping pucks to the outside, two, getting sticks in and protecting the crease. And also, you got to admit, like he was in McDavid's head tonight. Adam Lowry was living rent free right in McDavid's head all night. I know you had a little bit of you were a little upset with some lack of calls near the end there. Did you really think that hit on McDavid, the one where after his pass, what should have been interference?
Well, so again, I think it's interference or cross-checking, whatever you want to call it. Again, the refs came out and they set a standard. They call that call on Evander Kane earlier in the game for interference, which again, a little bit weak, whatever. But if that's a standard, stick to it. And you watch McDavid get interfered with like pretty much constantly. It gave such heavy 2021 playoff bubble vibes the way they were all over Connor McDavid tonight. And like, when you see McDavid, that happened to McDavid, and then especially when McDavid gets called later for another kind of interference holding call on a Jets player, when that happens to him quite literally every single shift he ever has played in the NHL, he gets frustrated. He gets in his own head with the refs, and he gets irritated, and you can kind of see it in his play. But then when that didn't get called, I wasn't going to complain about the refs, and I hate coming on here and complaining about the refs. But when that thing got called, I got really irritated because McDavid passes the puck up to Bouchard. He waits 1-2, whatever. Like, obviously, it was in that kind of zone. But, like, I mean, it's borderline. It's borderline. Is it the end of the world? Is it something where I'm going to go on Twitter and bitch about continue like tomorrow and the next day? Probably not. But also, again, when it's Connor McDavid, it's just different. Like, it could be the most clean hit in the world, and I will come on here and say that it was dirty and there should be a suspension. Like we could talk about what happened with Josh Morrissey on Matisse Janmark in the game, right? Because to me, in my head, my first instinct, flop, right? I see that. I'm just like, you friggin' flopper, because he gets like, it's Matisse Janmark's what, 5'10". I know how Josh Morrissey's not the biggest guy in the world. Matisse Janmark tries to get out of the way of him, but they kind of both stepped to the right, it looked like, and he went into Janmark's shoulder. The Jets get all pissy. They go after Matisse Janmark. And then the problem with what Josh Morrissey was fine after that hit, right? But because he laid on the ice, because he tried, I'm guessing, listen, I don't watch Josh Morrissey outside of the games that the Oilers play the Jets. I'm guessing he probably wanted a call there. So he kind of, laid on the ice maybe a little bit longer than he could have or should have. But it actually worked. I mean, the Oilers didn't end up capitalizing, but it worked to the Oilers' it worked to the Oilers' benefit, because the Oilers end up without Josh Morrissey on the ice for the end of the second period, right? So exactly. I don't know. That's my instinct there. But again, I'm biased and I'm a homer. And whatnot.
The only reason I wanted to talk about, because I just think it was interesting, and I think that the physicality of the game played a big part in it. So I think that's the only reason why I wanted to bring it up. The one thing I'll say that is different, the McDavid one, is he is completely he's just admiring his pass. And that's something you get taught not to do when you turn 11, 12, 13, whatever it is now, when hitting comes into play in the minor hockey. Whereas the Kane one, for example, is literally like interfering with a player and not allowing him to make a play. Same with the McDavid interference call. Like I would have even just called it straight up holding, because he's got his hand out. He's impeding. I can't remember who it was on the.
It was Adam Lowry, I think.
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah. You're right. Yes.
But like in that same vein, you watch McDavid stick his arm out, and you watch Lowry grab his arm. Those are the penalties like that, to me, drive me nuts, because I'm just like, hey, call holding, or just let that go. Like, those are the ones that get let go all the time. There's 200 of those in every single NHL game. And it seems like every game now McDavid's taken a 2-minute minor. But now that he's back, that we're not watching, like I don't know if you got a chance to watch the Oilers earlier on in the season. Different team. Connor McDavid, like, the way he's able to cut to the middle, like, you see the hard cuts he makes on offense to get away from a Jets defender and just create space for himself. That was not happening earlier. And you could see that he's doing it now against the Jets, who close. So, like, you have to give credit to the Jets, the way that they close on him. They do get in his head. Neil Pionk is a player that has frustrated Connor McDavid for 5 years now. Like, consistently, the Jets are one of the few teams that are able to get in his head. And it seems like they know how to interfere without really interfering with him, if that makes sense. And yeah, it definitely bothers him. But watching them come out is super sweet because, again, the last game that I did, the last crossover that I did was with Liss, and the Oilers ended up choking on a Connor-Scheifele overtime winner.
Yeah.
And I just was expecting the exact same tonight because even though the Oilers are an insane offensive team, they have Hellebuyck, and it always feels like these games are so close, a lot closer than they should be sometimes. But regardless, again, super, super happy with the result. And yeah, that play definitely stuck out to me. I was not happy with the refs, but at the end of the day, also, like, the Oilers took out Adam Ernie out of the lineup, and you knew right there they were going to win. Like, Adam Ernie is just genuinely might be the worst player I've ever seen wear an Oilers jersey. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Over the last 15 years, like, I cannot stand watching him play hockey. Sam Gagner back in Winnipeg, what was it like watching Sam? How nice!
Oh, it was great, and it was like I was also sitting here wondering. I'm like, if he scored the goal, do you play his old song, like, just kind of as for a little fun? I know that they would never do that. That would be too fun of a thing to do. And I also just want, like, first of all, too, also he also absolutely robbed by Connor Hellebuyck on that one cross crease in the second period. I think it was. Yep. Again, just it's. I know we already talked about it, but I just can't get over how that game is completely decided by just a knuckler that goes between DeMello's legs, and Hellebuyck doesn't get the greatest view on it, and then just trickles in. Like, it's not that it's not fair, but it's just like, for the game that he put up, it's just so frustrating. It is so frustrating.
Totally. That's the type of thing. But that's the thing with the Oilers. Like, that's the type of goaltending that they get consistently. And tonight was probably their second best goaltending performance of the season. Like, Skinner stopped everything that he needed to. Mm-hmm. And exactly what you said, he had no chance really on the Perfetti power play goal. He was great tonight. Full credit to Stuart Skinner, because I have been really, really hard on him this season because, he kind of expected him to be the starter. He was a rookie of the year last year. You expect him to kind of carry that, and he's just completely stumbled. But, in the last couple of games, it looks like he's kind of getting it back. It's the one thing that's kind of stupid is I think he started like something like 13 of the last 14 games or 14 of the last 15 games for the Oilers. Obviously, you can't keep doing that. Like, you can't tire a goalie out no matter how good he is. They're talking about bringing Jack Campbell back up because he's played like 2 good AHL games back to back, which is absolutely ludicrous. I don't know what you go with, the 100-game sample size you have or the 2-game sample size in the AHL after he put up like a 700 save percentage in the AHL for the first 3 games. Whatever. I digress with that because that's a whole like other conversation. But like, that's the type of frustrating goaltending that Oilers fans have to deal with every single game. But the difference between the Oilers and every other NHL team is they have the talent to be able to outscore those, and they just weren't getting it. Now they are, and this is consistent. They'll be able to keep this up.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it is important to mention too that like the Oilers had like 3.5 expected goals tonight. So like, this is just the Oilers game, right? Like this, like, despite even when they do get goalied, it's not necessarily, it's almost kind of, I'm not going to say built in, but it is like, they're a team that deals better, I would assume, at least, you can correct me if I'm wrong, in quantity as well as quality too. But their offense is their entire game. But despite that, I think they still did decently well at keeping the Jets to the outside in the offensive zone. I mean, it is tough when you're constantly fighting off McDavid in your defensive zone to get a ton of stuff going on the other way. But I guess the line matching kind of allowed the Jets to put their new look top line out, which for any non-Jets fan here, Connor-Scheifele-Ehlers was something that was bandied about at the start of the season last year before Ehlers got hurt, and they never really returned to it. And this year, just last game, right near the end of it, when they needed to score, they ended up putting them together. I'm curious, because we do have to talk a little bit about them. What did you think? How do you think the Jets did in regards to creating offense against the Oilers, as well as maybe the Oilers defense?
The Jets have a few players to me that whenever they play them, like, they always feel dangerous, but like the Jets are a team that offense just doesn't scare me, because again, you have to look at it like, when I think of the Oilers going into any matchup, there's only a few teams that could keep pace with the Oilers on offense. It's all about the Oilers. Like, the Oilers are a team that if the other team scores, it's because the Oilers are shooting themselves in the foot more often than not. Like they have so many. They have like if you look at their defense, they have guys like Darnell Nurse gets ragged on social media all the time from top to bottom on their defense. Like the Oilers' own media cannot stand Evan Bouchard. And if you watch some of the games they make, it's absolutely mind-boggling, like brain dead plays sometimes, like just a absolute blatant pass right up the middle. And the Oilers defense since the coaching change has gotten away from that, and it's made it a lot tougher for other teams to generate offense. Now the Jets definitely got chances. I want to say the high danger chances, at least on natural stat trick, were very close within 2. It was like 10 to 12. I believe the Oilers had 12 and the Jets had 10. So honestly, it actually, the numbers say it's closer than it felt like. Like the Jets didn't necessarily feel dangerous outside of those 3 Kyle Connor shots, the Ehlers post really early on. But at the same time, I thought the Oilers were better in managing those chances because there was 2 plays like on a power play in the second period when McDavid did get that holding call. Cece saved a goal. Like he lifted a stick of a Jets player right in front of the net on a wide open net. And Darnell Nurse made like a very, very similar play. And I might have been mixing them up, but like within a 2-minute span, those 2 guys stopped 2 goals from the Jets and helped their goalie out. Like the Jets were able to create, but I was more concerned with, will the Oilers be able to create against Hellebuyck? Like it was more a question of like, the Jets come into this matchup, it seems like to me, and again, you correct me if I'm wrong, but they come in with a defense first mindset. We will not give anything up, and the Oilers are going to shoot themselves in the foot or give us a power play, and that's where we're going to get it. And then we're going to, stack the blue line, play Rick Bowness hockey, and not let them create anything, just be as hard as possible. And the Oilers were able to overcome it. But just in regards to the Jets offense, like Ehlers sometimes I feel like usually feels more dangerous to me than he did tonight. Outside of that post, he wasn't really noticeable, at least to me. Velarde obviously came back after a long period of time, wasn't really noticeable to me at all. Kyle Connor was the only guy who really scared me. Even Mark Scheifele, I feel like, is usually more impactful in these matchups than he was tonight.
Yeah, it's really interesting because the Jets normally, especially this season, have been a very depth first team. Even since Velarde's been out, they've been able to roll their top 3 lines. They use the Adam Lowry line in basically second line minutes. That's actually realistically their second line. Previously it was Perfetti, Nemesnikov, and Ehlers as their third/second line, and Connor-Scheifele and Iafallo. The thing that was frustrating for me and kind of speaks to why I have concerns about putting Scheifele, Ehlers, and Connor, all 3 of those guys together, is that it kind of takes away the special sauce that the Jets have had this season. Because like that, the Iafallo, Nemesnikov, Perfetti line, like Perfetti looked good tonight. He always looks good. Nemesnikov always consistently looks like he's in plays, but that line just didn't do anything for me. And it felt like they were kind of a non-option later on in the game. Even though 2 of those players, actually all 3 of those guys, I would say are some of the better Jets in regards to not necessarily shutting down, but defensively. I just feel like the Jets kind of played into Edmonton's hand tonight by stacking the top line, and then kind of taking like their third line did nothing. I know obviously Velarde comes back, he plays on their 4th line. He plays, I mean, I can check the time here in all situations. Let me check one second. 12 minutes and 42 seconds. Just to quickly speak on him, he looked out of sync to start the game. Like it is tough. He's coming back. He's got a knee brace on. It's his first game back in 6 weeks. You're playing against one of the fastest teams in the league. So I don't fault him or anything like that. He's playing with line mates he hasn't played with before. But he looked a little bit out of sync. And then slowly as the game went on, I thought he looked a little bit better. There was one moment that I was like, oh boy, like this is where we need this guy for. And it was the power play. I want to say it was in the second period. And he had this one perfect play where he was behind the net and he had 2 Oilers pressuring on him. And just the amount of poise he showed to just kind of use his body, shield the puck, and he knows that neither of those Oilers guys are really gonna play him super duper hard, just because it's a PK. You can't have a guy locked in on behind the net, and then makes a beautiful pass out to Connor. And so I felt like the Jets PP tonight looked at least a lot better, because that's one thing where we've had a lot of issues for the Jets. So I can see that he will definitely be helpful on that power play in providing more options, more dangerous guys you need to worry about. Therefore, you can create more chaos, more movement, yada yada yada, get people out of position. But yeah, I'm glad you also mentioned Ehlers, because as someone who is an Ehlers truther, a big fan of his. One thing that I've noticed from him this year is he has really struggled with his puck management, and I feel like this kind of goes for a little bit of everyone on that top line. Sometimes they just throw pucks into spaces, and it's like those kind of backhand passes or those behind the back passes where if it hits, you're going, wow, that was a crazy pass. But if it doesn't, you're going, what are you doing, man? And I thought that Ehlers, despite I thought he looked decently dangerous tonight in regards to his skating. He was really moving his feet. He's still struggling with just making unnecessary passes rather than just keeping it simple.
There was a play. Sorry, I was just gonna say there was a play. I think it also was in the second period, but Ehlers was skating and it looked to be like in a 3-on-2 or 2-on-1 situation, and he went for a really tough pass kind of off the boards, and it kind of just negated the whole chance. Yeah. And I think it was Bouchard picked it up, and the Oilers ended up getting a chance the other way. Like, it could have been dangerous if you just kind of focused it towards the net, but he ended up just negating it by trying to go for what to me at least looked like the tougher play. But I again, correct me if I'm wrong, because I kind of pay more attention to the Oilers when I watch these games. So just to speak on what you were talking about, putting 55 Connor-Scheifele and Ehlers together, playing into the Oilers' hands. Yeah. I think it really that is a mistake that teams do playing the Oilers. They load up their top line to try and go head to head when that is absolutely not the case. Because again, when the Oilers are a team that doesn't have nearly as much depth as any other team that they're playing. Like, they're always going to be top heavy no matter what. So what teams should do when they play them is balance out their lines, because especially if you're up in the game, like especially after that Perfetti goal, I don't know if Rick Bowness is like this, but they should have gone back to separating that top line, because that allows for the Oilers to put all their big dogs on one line. Yep. And I don't care who else you have on that line, the Draisaitl, McDavid, Kane, Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, whatever, they are always going to win the matchup against your forwards. And then it allows the Oilers to not necessarily worry about, okay, Kyle Connor's coming out on the second line. He has to play against James Hamblin, Ryan McLeod, and Sam Gagner, right? It allows the Oilers to go to their playbook without necessarily worrying as much that they're going to get scored on. So I think that did actually play into the Oilers' hand once the Jets went up 1-0, because then the Oilers always just go McDry.
Yeah, and I think you also mentioned it earlier too, but I felt like it just felt like the Jets weren't taking the chances that they were getting. It kind of goes back into the puck management side of things. But also at the same time, like you mentioned, how many missed nets did Kyle Connor have tonight? Yeah. Despite the fact that he was dangerous, he was getting to the right areas. He had multiple breakaways, if not like slot shots. He missed how many shots tonight? Like, I would love to see at
least 2, and then Skinner stopped him on a breakaway, and that was like within, again, like a 5-minute stretch. Like he was, to me, seemed like the most dangerous Jet, and he was getting frustrated. You could see him kind of punch the boards after, right? And I don't know how he is as a player, if frustration gets to him in his game or whatnot, but you could kind of tell that he was not fighting it, because he was getting the chances, but the fact that he wasn't finishing was really getting to him.
Yeah, he had 7 shot attempts, 3 shots on goal. So more than half of them either missing the net or getting blocked. I'm not sure if blocked shots would count in that. I would imagine it would. This is just money puck I'm looking at. But I mean, hey, like it's got to be nice, at least a lot nicer now in Oilerland than it was before, because the Oilers are now on a 4-game win streak. I have to ask. I mean, obviously, goaltending plays a big key in it. Do you think that the coaching change has changed anything? Because that's, as an outsider, that's always one of the bullets that the GM always has. Did it play out? Has it been playing out correctly for you?
So, I mean, if the only thing that I think is tangibly changed on the Oilers is their penalty kill, which under Woodcroft was a huge liability. Like, they were always a bottom 5 team on the penalty kill so far. And again, really small sample size, but they've been excellent. Like, one of the best penalty kills they've had, again, in the last 10 years. The coaching change, it was a lot of shuffling deck chairs, because Chris Knoblaw, just in terms of his philosophy and the way he plays, like, yeah, he probably went away from that new defensive system that everyone has heard about, ever when the Oilers were struggling. He went away from that, obviously, but like outside of that, he literally is Jay Woodcroft just before he got hired by the Oilers. Like if you look at his resume, you know, coaching in the OHL, coaching in the AHL, assistant coaching in the AHL, exact same resume, very similar mannerisms, very similar play style to Jay Woodcroft. He kind of, the only difference is he balances the lines a little bit more. Like if Jay Woodcroft was the coach, the fourth line would have probably sub 5 minutes of ice time tonight. McDavid and Dressel would probably be up around 25, 26, something ridiculous like that, which, you know, around 22 tonight, which is about average for them. But the coaching change, like, I think this is going to sound weird, but Paul Coffey's had an impact on the defense, because one of the Oilers' biggest problems before the coaching change as well was their neutral zone defense, their rush defense. They were allowing at least one rush goal per game. And it seems like Evan Bouchard in particular has just eliminated those mind-boggling plays from his game completely. And he's just been just fantastic to watch. Like you saw numerous shifts where he's dancing.
That was the one player that, like, obviously you want to talk about McDavid, you want to talk about Draisaitl, but that kid is a stud. He if he's not already, he will be. That guy is very, very good. I noticed him a ton tonight. He was always in on the plays. He looked great offensively. Defensively, he looked good as well too.
Yep.
I would be very, very happy if he was one of my top pairing guys.
He is and has been the Oilers' best defenseman this season, and you know, even arguably last season. The problem is, if you look at his like on ice save percentage, it's like sub 850, at least for the first part of the year. Like he was getting absolutely no luck. Like nothing was going right for him. And he still has 21 points in 22 games this season. Like and most of them are even strength too. Like he has not been racking up power play, but the Oilers power play has not been what it was last year. I don't know if you could really expect it to be the best power play of all time again, but it hasn't been what it was last year. And Evan Bouchard just 5-on-5 is such a difference maker. He's a play driver from the back end that can make plays on the blue line under pressure. Sometimes two guys on him, and he finds a way to keep the puck in, to get the puck down low, to get a shot off that's, 100+ miles per hour sometimes. I don't think he got one this game, but he can absolutely hammer the puck like no Oilers defenseman, since probably Chris Pronger. But like, he is unreal. And the problem is, like, there's a lot of people that kind of just see the young defenseman make a mistake, ends up at the back of the net, and that's immediately what they go at. So he kind of gets a lot of flack that's probably really undeserved in a lot of senses. But he is such a stud, and he is a difference maker, and he only makes $3.9 million this season and next season. He's going to cost them a lot of money when that contract ends. They might have two $9 million men on the back end, but he's outstanding. He's one of my favorite players to watch, and there's a really strong argument to make that he's been their third best player. Honestly, him and Kane and Hyman might have been their best players up until 7 games ago when McDavid and Draisaitl decided to wake up. And now McDavid only had 1 point tonight, but that still puts him at 13 points in his last 4 games. So,
Yeah, and also, like, going way back to what you were saying earlier, like I will completely agree with you that McDavid is a guy who does not get enough calls for him. Again, going back to the bubble playoffs, like the fact that he had no calls against him in that entire series is insane. And very frequently he does get interfered with. So I completely get that. But man, I think, I'm not sure where to go from here. So this is when I'll at least throw the question out to the chat. Does anyone in the chat have any questions here for us before we do shut this down? Anything else to say in the meantime while we wait?
No, I'm just like, the Oilers are back. Like, this is one of the team. They were what, 8 or 9 points out of a playoff spot at one point now, and thank God the West is garbage, because if the West wasn't garbage, it would be a lot harder to make the playoffs. But if there's any team that can just turn it on and play 700 hockey for 60 games, it's the Oilers. After the trade deadline last year, they went 17-2. Like, they are capable. It's the same roster that they had last year. Quite literally, it's no Klim Kostin, no Kyler Yamamoto. And they added Connor Brown, who, cannot score. Like, Tristan Jarry still outscoring Connor Brown, right? At least Ryan McLeod got an empty net goal. They had his first goal of the season. He's also been struggling offensively. Defensively, he's actually been a really good third line center, but a lot of people expect, because he is such a good skater, he seems like he should be more dangerous. He seems like he should generate more, and he just hasn't been this year, and he kind of expected it from him. because the Oilers don't have depth and they can't really afford to go and sign depth. So you kind of hope that those internal guys are going to come and take over like McLeod should have, and I still think he can this year. But just in regards to the Oilers, like I'm ecstatic. They're going into this 5-day break for McDavid to go to Toronto to get on the Walk of Fame here, get inducted. And then they come back, it's a mini bye week. And then they come back and hopefully they keep it going. And I have, again, objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. Like I would not want to be, if I'm LA and I win the division and I end up playing Edmonton in the playoffs, I would be fierce. I would be intentionally throwing games if I am the Los Angeles Kings to not play the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs. They've caused them fits the last 2 years. And just something on the LA Kings really quick that I was thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
They're right now, Cam Talbot is giving them outstanding goaltending, right? Outstanding goaltending. Cam Talbot is in his late 30s. He was an Oilers goalie. He had one of his best seasons ever as an Oilers goalie back in 16-17. He started 72 games, and we saw what that did to him, how that by the end of that game 7 against the Ducks, he was exhausted. He couldn't do it. And rightfully so. In the regular season, started 72 games. So this is my hope for the LA Kings, is that they keep winning and they decide, oh no, we're good. We're going to keep running out this tandem of Copley and Talbot, and we're going to trick themselves into thinking they have good goaltending. And March 9th comes around and Cam Talbot starts to go downhill. And all of a sudden they're playing the Oilers in the playoffs, and the Oilers are able to beat the Kings for a third year in a row. And that's just what I'm hoping. That's just a,
for sure,
random thought.
No, I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you. The Oilers are a sitting giant or a sleeping giant waiting to wake up. It seems like they have woken up, which is I'm very happy for you. Not too happy for my team, but it is what it is. Anyways, let's go over to the chat. We do have a couple questions here. I had a couple ones ready. From I am awesome 0111. Are either of you disappointed at not going for Zadorov at the price?
I will go first. Probably not. Again, the Oilers don't have the cap space to do it. And the Oilers have, if they're move, like the need A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K is a goalie. And then when you get to the M's, you can start dealing with a defenseman. They need a defenseman, but Zadorov's kind of mid to me. Like, I don't know how he got this reputation.
I agree. I mean, like, I think he's just a big guy who hits a lot, and so therefore everyone goes, "Oh, he playoff hockey. We need him," And from the Jets side of things, like I exactly the same thing. Like the Jets have enough 5th or 6th defensemen on their team. That's kind of the whole issue. The Jets need a top 4 guy if they're going to go trading for any defenseman, and there's no goddamn way I want Nikita Zadorov taking a place over a Dylan DeMello, maybe a Dylan, but I doubt it. I think Dylan has more to provide, and I also think that Sandberg is, again, a guy who could, if not should, be in that top 4.
Well, just one more thing on Zadorov. Like, I remember when the Oilers were playing the Flames in the playoffs back in 2022, like the goal for Connor McDavid was get him on the ice against Nikita Zadorov because he struggled defending this. Like, that was the whole play. Get him on the ice against Zadorov. If the Oilers can make the playoffs and end up playing the Canucks in the playoffs, please, by all means.
For sure. Question here from David. It's a Jets question, so I'll field it really quickly. What is the level of concern for Jets fans given 3 straight losses all in regulation and no game during said streak that's featured 3 or more Jets goals scored? I actually am glad this question was asked because I haven't really gotten to address this, but I'll be honest for myself, like I am not too worried. The Jets still have, again, Vilardi coming back from injury. I think that a lot of the fundamentals for the Jets have been really good, and I think that there's a very big difference between this year's team and last year's team. Obviously, last year's team was one of the best teams come, start of January, and then it all took a nosedive. And basically, they tripped and fell their way into the playoffs last year. Whereas this year, I think the big difference between last year's team and this year's team is that there's a lot more pieces on this. They've obviously kept Nino Niederreiter from Nino and Vlad Nemestikov from their dealings at the trade deadline, but also the trade of Pierre-Luc Dubois for 3 pieces. Alex Iafallo, Gabe Vilardi, and Rasmus Kupari has given the Jets a lot more. I would call it obviously depth, but also consistency. Before, we saw the line shakeups when for the longest time we had Iafallo was on the top line. We had Nemeskov on the second line, and we had Nino Niederreiter on the third line. Like, those are three players that show up and usually give you a very consistent game, rather than last year when you're kind of riding the ups and downs on if Mark Scheifele feels slighted by the media and this and that, if Pierre-Luc Dubois decides he wants to give a shit about playing hockey or not. I think I see this team as a team that will be able to weather the storm a lot better than last year's team. And at the end of the day, they did all they've had the start to their season while, Connor Hellebuyck has only really found his form within the past 5-6 games, maybe. And we're 22 games into the season. So no, I personally am not too worried. I think that there are some things that the Jets still need to figure out, like where Gabe Vilardi is going to go, what they're going to do with the lines and everything like that. But regardless, I still feel decently confident that the Jets will figure out how to keep this thing going. I think there was another Edmonton question here I had a second ago, but through my tirade, I have completely lost my track of thought.
I should be paying more attention to the chat. I see Black Massacres in there. What's up? He lives in Germany, so that's pretty cool. We got 57 people watching.
That's awesome.
If you haven't hit like already, hit subscribe. We really appreciate it. Very close to 100,000 subscribers. We're at 32 likes already. That's pretty good.
Question here, at least not necessarily a question, but there's been a lot of mentions of Dylan Holloway. And what I see he's injured. He's week to week, I believe. And a lot of people talking about what he can do when he comes back to the lineup. What do you see from Holloway potentially?
Holloway was just getting going once again when he got injured. I don't know what the injury is. He flew into the boards, messed up his knee. And he's been out ever since. They say it's week to week. I've seen other insiders, like Oilers insiders on Twitter, say, we're looking over 1 month, 1 to 2 months kind of thing. Like, he's on LTIR right now. He's not coming back anytime soon. He's not as good as Cole Perfetti. He's just our young guy who actually, like, you can see the skill when he's on the ice. You can see the way he's able to protect the puck. He makes a huge impact in the bottom six when he's there. He's really good with Brian McLeod. He'll be a major upgrade. I love Sam Gagne. He's a huge upgrade on Sam Gagne. He's a huge upgrade on Adam Ernie when he's in the lineup. He was second on the Oilers in hits too. Like, he's a really physical guy. I think he already had 2 fights this year. He's like 22 years old or 21 years old. He's a really physical player, really effective. And I'm hoping Dylan Holloway gets better as soon as possible, but also would not be opposed to including him in a deal for a goalie because,
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? This has gone on long enough. I still can't believe the Jets lost this one, but I also can because it's the Jets. It's what they do. And also, if I'm not going to count any team out, that is the Oilers. But this was a fun show. Again, Zach already mentioned it. We got 47 people in here still. Please do like the stream. Make sure to give SDPN a subscribe. I think we're going to shut it down now. So obviously make sure to follow Zach on Twitter. Zach ZWheel97? 97, is that correct?
Exactly.
Perfect.
Sure.
Follow myself at NHL Chunky. Follow again at SDPN Sports. And so I guess the Oilers have a bunch of days off here. So when are they back at it?
They're back on Tuesday. Honestly, they're so far away. I haven't even checked who they're playing. Like, well, I usually just check the day before, but we've been every second game, but it's quite literally a bye week in at the beginning of December here. It's not Minnesota. Well, we'll figure it out. They play on Tuesday.
So anyways, be sure to catch Game Over Winnipeg after every Oilers game. And for the Jets, you got it?
Carolina.
It's Carolina. There you go. And of course, like I said, Game Over Winnipeg after every Jets game. If you happen to be a Jets fan and you just stumbled in here for the first time, you can catch me or my other host, Liz. And we're going to be back here on Saturday when the Jets face off against Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks. So that should be a fun game. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in. I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful night as we approach the weekend. Make sure you have a good, fun, and safe weekend. And thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Have a good night.